What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Dilly Vanilli. We are here to discuss NFL free agency here for March the 13th, 2018. This is not supposed to be the start of free agency, but you know how the NFL works. It's a day before, it's an hour before, it's a minute before. However they can do it, they'll cheat their way and they'll sign their players and they'll tamper and they'll do their thing and they'll report stuff rapidly. So, NFL free agency is supposed to start tomorrow, but as we know, it's going to start a day before. So, we're going to discuss all the big moves that have happened today. Like pretty much all the big players almost have been signed to contracts already, but like not officially, but officially. They haven't been brought to the stadium, done the whole press conference, thrown the jersey up, but pretty much they have signed a contract and they are going to be playing with that team in 2018. So we're here to discuss all those moves, from Kirk Cousins to Andrew Norwell, from Sammy Watkins to Allen Robinson, from Trey Burton to Case Keenum, Drew Brees resigning, all these other moves that we're going to get into. So this video is going to be live as well. So if you're here live with us, make sure you comment your favorite moves of the day. Also, if you have any questions, let us know. Plus, we'll probably release every single move or big enough move as an individual video. So if you can't stick around the whole time and you want to check out one individual signing, come back later to the channel. You'll be able to see that video itself on the channel as well. So, Dylan?
Yes.
I know you woke up 20 minutes ago. What was your reaction to all these crazy signings today in the NFL?
Well, I woke up and I saw a whole bunch of DMs, which you know what that means. That means we got a lot of things going on in the NFL. And then I hadn't even seen half of them until this report that Mitch shared with me. And I was going nuts. Like, this is crazy, honestly. Like, we're not even into what we were going to designate our day into free agency tomorrow. And all these big guys got signed to deals that you weren't expecting. This has actually been one of the crazier off seasons I've seen in a long time. Big deals for quarterbacks. Obviously, we saw at least 3 go down in the last 24 hours. 2 big receivers now in Robinson and Sammy Watkins going out. A lot of teams want to make themselves a lot better. So I was honestly shocked to see all these signings, but I'm glad we're doing it because there is a lot to talk about here. So very interested to see how everybody feels about these contracts. Some of them are a little bit better than others, but I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah, so Dylan's going to control the live chat. Dylan, if you need to interrupt me at any point regarding any crazy comments or anything relevant, let me know.
Okay.
So basically how we're going to do this, we're going to break down each signing individually. We're going to start off with the biggest signing of free agency thus far, Kirk Cousins. It's going to be the biggest free agent signing this offseason. It's going to be one of the biggest free agent signings of all time. Kirk Cousins is the highest paid player in the NFL. Kirk Cousins is going to go from the Washington Redskins to a contender. Usually, when you're signed as the biggest player in free agency, usually when you're signed as a player that's a revolution of the team that you're going to, is a player that's going to make a ginormous impact in free agency. Usually, it's not to a team that played in the NFC Championship. That's usually not the way it goes. But Kirk Cousins, he could decide between a few teams. The Cardinals were there. The Jets were there. The Broncos hung around for a while. But the Minnesota Vikings is going to be the destination for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins will likely sign a 3-year contract with the Vikings. That includes roughly $86 million guaranteed. All the money is guaranteed. It is a 3-year contract. And that had a lot to do with it. Kirk Cousins is going to be sort of a guy that in the NFL set some standards for franchise quarterbacks, for franchise players, with the way that he went about and used the franchise tag in those last couple of years with the Redskins, the way that he maneuvered himself into a good situation in free agency, and then took all guaranteed money and bet on himself to get the best contracts possible. Dylan, what's your thoughts on Kirk Cousins going to the Vikings? And anything else regarding the contract or the situation with Cousins?
Well, I always thought that Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback choice coming in. If they had the opportunity to get him, why not get him? I know you're going to have to throw some bones out there, but $86 million, that's all guaranteed. I think that was the big reason as to why he picked the Minnesota Vikings over everybody, because that's pretty much all guaranteed money. If he had went to any of these other destinations, he would have had the misfortune of playing the waiting game again, which I think he wasn't wanting to do after being in Washington for so long and being like, oh, we can kind of do this or we can kind of do that. I don't think he wanted to be in that situation. So I think his two biggest things in terms of signing with a team where I need somebody that can win and I need somebody that will give me at least good money to play there. And the Minnesota Vikings were willing to do both. This team just went to the NFC Championship game, as we were talking about, so that's pretty crazy. Next one in the offseason, signing with a team that just went to the top 4 in their conference, or actually top 2 in their conference. So it'll be interesting to see how the Vikings play with this. And we talked about whether or not some of their biggest defensive players will leave after next season. But I think it wasn't. I think it's actually pretty good money, all things considered. It wasn't in the $100 millions, which is what I was expecting. And
it's only 3 years, so
yeah. I mean, and then you can sign into a bigger contract. Maybe they were just wanting to keep some of their players protected for the defense.
I think the interesting thing about this deal, because this is the deal that's going to be broken down for the next few years, all offseason, all year long, general managers are going to be looking at how Kirk Cousins maneuvered the field to get what he wanted. And I think this is going to be a major deal, not only for Kirk Cousins and his significance as a Viking, but on the entire landscape of the NFL. It's going to impact the future of free agency because you have this deal that's fully guaranteed. That's something that's extremely rare. That barely ever, if not ever, happens in the NFL. It's a regular thing in places like the NBA, but in the NFL, it's something that it's a sport and that changes at an instant. Injuries, we've seen so many busts in terms of signings and draft picks that it's something that doesn't really happen. And I think with Kirk Cousins, not only is he a guy that I think is going to come in and have a lot of success with Minnesota, but I think he's going to entirely change the landscape of free agency. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this signing impacts next year's free agency, the re-signings throughout the year for big players like Le'Veon Bell, OBJ, future quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan that need to be signed. And I just think it's going to be very interesting. Now, when we go to the and you said it's not in the $100 million. I think it's because it's only 3 years. Like he's still making what, 28 million a year?
28, 29.
28 something million a year. So he's getting overpaid. Like there's no doubt about it, but you're going to have to overpay in free agency. We say that all the time. And for the Vikings, their decision was, okay, are they going to get Kirk Cousins, or are they willing to sacrifice 2 or 3 defensive players next year because they have a lot of players coming up in contract? Obviously, they felt that Kirk Cousins was more important and that franchise quarterback that they haven't had for quite some time outside of 1 year with Brett Favre when he was 40, that they really had where they had a franchise QB, and they haven't had one since forever. I mean, Dante Culpepper for a short period of time may have been considered that. But, and Cunningham for 1 year. But, like, really, Fran Tarkington is the last time you really had a consistent franchise quarterback. That's not even a joke. So Kirk Cousins could end up being, the second greatest Viking quarterback of all time if he has success there. And we know how the Vikings are built. They're built for a window. They're built for now. They're built to go to the Super Bowl in these next couple of years. And I think that's what the Vikings thought. They need this quarterback now so that they can maximize their window this year, next year, and the year after that. And we'll see what they do after that point with Kirk Cousins and how successful it goes. I've always been a big fan of Kirk Cousins. There's been naysayers of Kirk Cousins. There's been people that don't like him very much. There's been people that love Kirk Cousins. I like Kirk Cousins, not only because he's a good football player, but because of what he is off the field. He's an extremely good leader, and he got himself to this point as a football player because of his hard work, because of his determination, because of his film study. When you listen to the guy, he's extremely intelligent. When he talks about football, he has an extreme passion for it. So I think that the Vikings got their quarterback. I think this is going to be a huge move for their franchise moving forward, and he's going to be their face of their franchise. And I think this is just going to be, a wonderful move for Vikings fans, the Viking franchise, and for Kirk Cousins. The Cousins fits Minnesota well. Everything about it, I think, screams it's going to be great. So, Dylan, any final thoughts on Kirk Cousins before we move on?
You like that. That's all I got to say. I think the Vikings, I think they're going to like it for a lot. They've got a great combination of receivers. I think Diggs and Thielen are going to be all over the place next season. And I think the Vikings fans should be elated by this because you said, they've had to deal with seasons of Tavares Jackson as their QB. So anywhere is a step up from there. So
and he's extremely better than Case Keenum.
Yes.
So, and Case Keenum's not bad. I'm just saying he's a better quarterback and an upgrade. So that's Kirk Cousins, our thoughts on the Kirk Cousins signing.
I want to pause you real quick as we go into the next one. There is the contract for Sam Bradford just got released. 1 year, $20 million. One season.
Interesting.
That is a lot of money for Sam
Let's go with Sam Bradford then. Sam Bradford, as Dilly Vanilli just reported, live as Adam Schefter, he says that Sam Bradford has gotten signed for 1 year for $20 million to the Arizona Cardinals. That's interesting. The interesting part about it, I think, is that there's another guy who is signed for 1 year on the Arizona Cardinals. Do you know who that is, Dylan?
I do not. Who would that be?
Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh.
Do you think that has anything to do with it, that Sam Bradford was signed for 1 deal? Maybe 1 year. Maybe it was because...
I think it's injury concerns.
I think that's probably most of it. But, I think there's also kind of that thought in the mind of the Cardinals that, we still have Fitz for 1 more year. We do have David Johnson. Our defense is pretty good. Maybe we can have some sort of a playoff run this year. If everything goes right, maybe we can do something.
They could.
So I think a lot of it, like you said, is to do with injury concerns because Sam Bradford, 1 year contract, kind of like a prove it deal, right? So if he plays well, Cardinals will re-sign him to a 3-4 year contract and everybody will be happy. If he's not healthy, and probably I would never ever sign Sam Bradford to a long-term contract again.
No. I think the years are right. I think the money is very questionable.
The money, to me, this is why it's fine to me. You can rebuttal after, but it's fine to me because I think that they have enough money to do it. A quarterback he's overpaid, obviously. Sam Bradford's a good quarterback. He deserves to be a starting quarterback. Yeah. But the thing is, it's only 1 year, and that's everything to me. Because 1 year means it's 1 year and he's done. It's $20 million for this year and he's done. It's not like you're committing $20 million this year, next year, and the year after that, where if he sucks this year, then you can just get rid of him. So it doesn't matter.
No, I feel you. I just was kind of surprised when I saw that he's getting paid basically $1 million per game.
And it's also interesting to see, what did the Bills offer, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And it's also if you don't think he's the quarterback this year, then you can go draft somebody in the next quarterback class. Again, I don't know how good the next year's quarterback class is, but I think it's just like you said, it's a contract year kind of situation. They've got the talent. Their defense is, they've got some really good players. We still don't know about the futures of Tyrann Mathieu and a couple other people, for example. But Fitzgerald, he's got the 1 year deal, like you said. David Johnson's coming back from injury, so we'll see how he does. They just cut Adrian Peterson. But I think overall, Sam Bradford is a good QB when he's healthy. We saw it 2 seasons ago when he was leading the Vikings to something good. And then he started off well last season before all the knee problems. So I guess they have enough confidence in him to say, hey, we think you're healthy enough. Let's do this for 1 year. So I'm not mad about the contract.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch the Cardinals. Obviously, they're in a super competitive division. You have San Fran. You have the Rams, obviously, who made the playoffs. You have the Seahawks, who still, they lost a lot of players, but they still have Russell Wilson. So it's going to be a competitive division. It's going to be a fun one to watch. And Sam Bradford going to the Cardinals will definitely be intriguing. That's one to look out for because it's only a 1 year contract. How well does he play? How healthy is he? And that will definitely dictate his next year market as well. So he's a guy that's going to be a free agent next year. So that's our thoughts on Sam Bradford. Moving on to the next signing would be the Jacksonville Jaguars signing guard Andrew Norwell to a 5-year deal worth $66 million. Reports Adam Schefter from ESPN, of course. Andrew Norwell, if anybody knows his statistics by now, if you're a team that was trying to get after Andrew Norwell, he had this crazy statistic that everybody was talking about. The crazy statistic is that he was the only offensive lineman in the entire NFL that did not give up a hit. A sack or a hit.
Hit. That's insane.
Not a hit, not a pressure, not a sack. Andrew Norwell, not only is he going to be he was by far, not even close, the best offensive lineman for the Carolina Panthers last year. It's not even a question.
No question.
Like everybody else couldn't block, but then there was Andrew Norwell. So Andrew Norwell is one of the best guards in the NFL, especially in pass protection, as I just brought up. He's going to go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a team that allowed the least amount of sacks in the NFL. They're also a power running team that's very big on running the football, obviously, with Leonard Fournette and the guys that they have there. Obviously, Blake Bortles didn't pass the ball a lot, so it kind of makes sense they didn't get sacked a lot. But at the same time, I think, yes. Again, yes. Overpaid, yes. Okay, 5-year deal.
We're talking in terms of NFL standards.
NFL standards, NFL free agency standards. It's still, I think, a good move because Jacksonville is just increasing a strength. What have we seen, with the recent Super Bowl champions, the teams that have been the best? Look at what the Eagles have just, did last season with their defensive line. That was their strength. They increased it in the draft with Derek Barnett. This offseason, they go out, they get Michael Bennett. They sign Haloti Ngata, which we'll get to in a little bit. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, their offensive line was already good. Now it's possibly great. And that's how you're going to beat teams in the AFC like Pittsburgh and like New England. You have to dominate the line of scrimmage because you don't have a better quarterback than them. So by increasing your strength on the offensive line and the defensive line, with Andrew Norwell, I think that's a smart move. Yes, it's a lot of money, and the Panthers will definitely miss this guy, but they definitely couldn't afford him. Jacksonville, I think, gets an upgrade here along one of their strengths of their team. Dylan?
Yeah, I think their offensive line was one of the more underrated things, one of the less talked about things from last season because of that great defense, Leonard Fournette, and all that stuff. But their offensive line was very solid most of the way through. They helped Leonard Fournette get some really when you don't allow it, or when you're very good at not getting that many sacks happening to Blake Bortles, that is a positive. Andrew Norwell comes in. I mean, I can't even believe that statistic. That's how freaking good he is. Not allowing a hit, much less a sack or pressure. The guy's very talented. He was one of the only pieces of Carolina where I'm like, okay, I can trust him in a certain situation to block me. And he's going, obviously, like you said, Carolina was not going to be able to pay him. So a team like Jacksonville, who is just made it to the AFC Championship game, they've still got very high hopes of getting back there next season and wanting to improve their team. Their offense got a lot better. Their receivers, they're going to have to beef up on, was crucial in making them better on the offensive line. So they made themselves probably a good, underrated unit to probably a great unit. So I like this signing. A little bunch of money, but I can't be saying that for every single player because then it'll just get repetitive. But good signing. Jacksonville, their goal is to get better even after an AFC Championship game appearance, and I like that.
Yeah. So Andrew Norwell, again, signs 5-year deal, $66.5 million. That's our thoughts on Andrew Norwell going to the Jaguars. Next up, NFL Network Ian Rappaport reported that Kansas City has agreed in principle to a 3-year deal with wide receiver Sammy Watkins.
Biscuits?
Not biscuits. Sammy, well, we already talked about the biscuits. Sammy Watkins. The deal is expected to be worth $48 million with $30 million guaranteed. Sammy did well for himself, per Ian Rappaport. Now, $48 million over 3 years.
That's crazy.
This is possibly the worst contract, in my opinion, so far signed. It's arguable, but it might be the worst. Sammy Watkins to me. Now, Dylan might have a different opinion. Sammy Watkins to me, in his first season or so, showed promise of a receiver that could be a number one go-to guy, a guy that could stretch the field, a guy that could be a playmaker. But for me, Sammy Watkins is nothing more than a second receiver. I don't think he's a number one guy. And I don't think he'll need to be a number one guy in Kansas City.
Be a number one. No.
He won't have to be. But you're paying him in the range of great receivers. You're paying him, I believe, just as much, if not more, than Mike Evans just got paid.
He's also getting more than Allen Robinson.
He's getting more than Allen Robinson. So that's pretty crazy because everybody considered Allen Robinson to be the guy in free agency. Everybody across the board. Allen Robinson is the best receiver in free agency. Sammy Watkins gets the most money. I don't know if it's because of his profile, if it's because of his potential, what it is, but this is a guy that's been consistently injured. He's played, he's only ever played 16 games 1 year, and he was banged up in that 2014 season. That was his rookie season. He played 13 games, 8 games, and 14 games in 2015, 16, and 17. He's only had one 1,000-yard season and never had 10 touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns last year with the Rams, the highest scoring offense in the NFL, but he was like the second or third option. He only had 593 yards. This is a season coming off 39 receptions, 593 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Not overly impressive. Those are wide receiver 2 numbers. Tyreek Hill is far and away the better player, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in to an offense like Kansas City with an offensive coach like Andy Reid, who is a pass-first guy who's probably been looking for that replacement and that number 2 guy in Kansas City since Jeremy Maclin left. So that is pretty much their replacement to Jeremy Maclin. Very similar type of receiver, in my opinion. I think it's going to work to a certain degree, but and definitely having Patrick Mahomes there will help because Sammy Watkins is another guy that if he's back and he's healthy, he can stretch the field, he can run, and Patty Mahomes can definitely throw that deep ball. So we'll see how the Kansas City offense develops from last year to this year because they are changing quarterbacks. They will change a little bit in their scheme as they do all the time with Andy Reid. But I do think that this was one of the worst contracts signed so far in free agency. I just think it's overpaying for a guy that's unproven and often injured.
I'm not gonna really disagree with you on the contract situation, but I'm just gonna give you my opinions. First off, as my new favorite Chiefs saying goes, wait until the playoffs, even in free agency. But when you look at the Watkins signing for them, you now have Patrick Mahomes as your QB, who we talked about as one of our favorite prospects of last year's quarterback class. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. That sounds like a really, really good unit, especially for a quarterback coming into his rookie year. So I like the promise of that. Second, Sammy Watkins, I think, was, I don't want to say grossly underused, but he was not used to the potential that he had in Los Angeles. Like I don't think they valued him as much as other teams would have because we saw other receivers stand out throughout the course of the year. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. They made themselves bigger names in their seasons. I know Cooper Kupp was a rookie this year. But I don't think he was used as any big talent. I think more teams, given that they have a roster spot for him, are going to use him better. And Albert Wilson is gone. He's signing to the Dolphins, so that's a wide receiver spot that could be used for him. I don't like the money whatsoever. I think it's a little bit too much. But again, I think it's just maybe we wait and see on this one. We see if he has a breakout season, it'll be worth it. As stands, I'm not liking it, but I do think he went to the right team. I think they'll use him as effective as possible to where, maybe he'll be like a deep threat or some combination of a really good receiver. It depends. I think this is the best overall system that he could have gone to. So I think he made the best decision and he got paid. So it's all up to the Chiefs to make it execute well. And it's Mahomes' first season, so we'll see how he does and if that affects anything. But given Andy Reid's way of calling plays and being exotic with certain play calls, it could work in Sammy's in his favor, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's going to be a wait-and-see approach, but I definitely think this is, like I said earlier, just too much money for a guy that is still unproven to me. So That's our thoughts on Sammy Watkins going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I just read on Twitter that Marquise Lee has re-signed with Jacksonville. So this is going from one receiver to another. And Marquise Lee is a guy that both Dylan and I like. He's a receiver that I think is pretty underrated overall. And being that the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't sign Allen Robinson, I think this was definitely a much needed move for the Jaguars. Even though we think they have a pretty underrated receiver core, Marquise Lee was definitely probably the best guy they had last year, and it's definitely a safety blanket for Blake Bortles or whoever is going to end up playing quarterback the next year, whether it's Blake Bortles or it's a rookie at some point. Marquise Lee's definitely a talented guy. He's a pretty good route runner. He's not a world beater or anything, but he's a guy that's a pretty solid all-around receiver and definitely can help the Jaguars get to where they want to go. Dylan, any thoughts on Marquise Lee re-signing with the Jags?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason, obviously, is because they weren't able to re-sign Allen Robinson. So you need some kind of player from last year to be there. Marquise Lee was pretty much the only guy there that was healthy all the way through and had experience before. I think he's an underrated receiver. I think Blake Bortles values him a lot. I know Blake Bortles isn't the best QB, but you need somebody from one season to the next because you need consistency. And a guy like Marquise Lee can be used very well. He could be a good deep threat. He can get the end zone every once in a while. I think it's a solid re-signing. Do you know the money total at all, or have we not figured that one out yet?
I don't think so. Let me look real quickly.
Okay. If not, it's fine. But I think either way, as long as it's not like a huge contract, I think it's a good deal. I actually think it's maybe an underrated deal compared to what we're going to see. As we've seen today already, we've got like 20 contracts. So I like him. Look out for him next season. I think he'll have a big year for himself.
Yeah, I don't see any contract negotiation in terms of money, but it does say, according to multiple sources, that Marquise Lee is re-signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just hearing a rumor, random, that the Jets are trying to finalize a deal with Teddy Bridgewater.
Ooh, that's a solid.
Should we discuss this? I don't know if it's like a fact, like it's actually gonna happen.
Let's go farther on into this video, and then if it gets announced, we'll talk about it.
Okay. Well, we've talked about receivers, so let's stay with that trend. The Jacksonville Jaguars have let go of Allen Robinson. We're unable to sign him. He signs with the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
He's expected to sign, that is. 3 years, worth $42 million, with roughly $25 million guaranteed, according to Ian Rappaport. So, Allen Robinson, I think this is a great signing, especially after I saw what Sammy Watkins went for. Again, Sammy Watkins, $48 million, $30 guaranteed. Allen Robinson, $42 million, $25 guaranteed.
And Allen Robinson's better.
And Allen Robinson is better. Allen Robinson is a good receiver. Allen Robinson has potential to be and as it was at one time a couple years ago, a top 10 plus receiver. He's in the top 5 range. So Allen Robinson is a guy that I think is going to take the Bears passing offense to the next level. He gives a Mitchell Trubisky a legitimate number 1 receiver all over the field, a guy that can go deep and catch jump balls, a guy that can run past people. He can be physical and get open in the red zone. And he's one of the best at receiving touchdowns in the red zone as well. So he's going to help their red zone offense. He's going to help their offense regardless. And he's going to open up that run game, which the Bears love to do. They have Jordan Howard. They have Tariq Cohen. We'll get to a couple other signings that they've made as well. But they also have Cameron Meredith. So they're kind of forming around a pretty good receiver core with Cameron Meredith, tight end Trey Burton, who they signed, we'll get into that, and wide receiver Allen Robinson. So Allen Robinson, overall, I think is sort of been, you could say he's been inconsistent, but I think more of it, and you know my stance on this, I think more of it has been that he's been playing with Blake friggin' Bortles. Give him a quarterback that can actually throw the ball. And I believe Mitchell Trubisky, I know Dylan is not the believer I am, but I believe Mitchell Trubisky is a good, young, talented quarterback. And now he's going to an offense with Matt Nagy, who is the head coach of the Chicago Bears, who's been with the Kansas City Chiefs, who knows how to work receivers, knows how to score points. I think it's going to be a very good fit in Chicago for Allen Robinson. He is a quiet, hardworking player. He fits the Chicago style. I think it's going to be a great long-term signing, especially for pretty good value as we've seen, considering the other contracts for receivers like Paul Richardson, Sammy Watkins, and Albert Wilson, who all got kind of ridiculously higher contracts than probably their value. But Allen Robinson got a contract right around everybody would consider his value. Dylan?
2015, Allen Robinson had 80 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That was with Blake Bortles. Imagine what he's going to do here in Chicago, right? I know Mitchell Trubisky, we haven't seen him produce all that well so far. But, I mean, that's pretty great stats. 2016, they went down a little bit. 2017, he tore his ACL. So the biggest thing for me is I want to see his recovery. I want to see, some players can go really well in getting that recovery done, and other times it's not as great. So that's a question mark, but I would still paid him the exact amount of money Chicago paid for him. Chicago's whole goal is to make their team better, make their young team better, and build a system around Mitchell Trubisky, which I'll give them credit for. They got themselves a new head coach that's actually competent, John Fox. And now they have their number one receiver. We've been talking about the two teams that vastly need wide receiver help the most is Baltimore and Chicago. And Chicago, I think, was number one on this list because there was a time last season where Mitchell Trubisky, I think, threw 4 passes and they still won a football game. But he still only threw 4 passes to receivers.
That was partly John Fox, and that was partly because they had nobody to throw it to.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay, the details are out on the Marquise Lee.
I just saw that. 4-year max value of $38 million, including $18 million guaranteed.
I think that's fine. Okay, back to Allen Robinson here. So yeah, I mean, actually, I think it was only like 1 pass they threw to receiver, and they still won. Regardless, they had nobody. Kevin White is a good receiver, but he's been hurt the last 3 seasons. There were so many guys getting injured, and you're like, who are these people? At the end of the year, I'm like, who are these jamokes, right? And then it was ridiculous. Zach Miller got injured in a really bad way, so he was gone as well. Now you got somebody that's legit, probably when healthy, a top 10 receiver, very close to a top 10 receiver. You want to build the system around him. You got 2 great running backs, Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen. You want to see how they produce. I think Mitchell Trubisky is in great hands. I don't know if he's going to succeed under that. I want to see that as year 2 comes around. But I think Chicago's whole goal in the past 2 seasons is to build a supporting system around Trubisky. And I think they're doing a great job around it, especially considering they not only got Allen Robinson, they got about Trey Burton, who we'll talk about in a minute. So good signing for them. Actually, probably a great signing for them.
Yeah, it was a great signing. And the key thing, I'll go back to it. I already said it, but the key thing to me is Matt Nagy and his offensive prowess and just him being an offensive coach, getting offensively talented players. You saw what Cohen, Howard, Trubisky, these guys did in a limited John Fox offense. Now you're going to be able to see what they can do at full potential in an offense with an offensive coach that's actually very creative and can put them in big places to succeed. So Allen Robinson going to the Bears, one of the best signings of free agency in our opinion. The next signing, as I fill in my reports here, the next signing is as well the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have signed former tight end Trey Burton of the Philadelphia Eagles to a 4-year, $32 million deal.
Ooh.
So $8 million a year for Trey Burton. I don't know how much of it is guaranteed. That's yet to come out. But Trey Burton, 4-year, $32 million deal. Dylan, what's your initial thoughts on Trey Burton heading to Chicago?
Okay, I'm split between this one because I like the guy. I think he's a good tight end. As we saw in the few games he was able to shine in last year, He did well, especially for your fantasy team, as you brought up many a times. Um, 23 catches, 248 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's decent, but here's the problem. He was a tight end too. Like, Zach Ertz was your tight end for sure. And I think we just haven't seen him play all that often. He started 5 games in his career so far, and you're giving him a $32 million contract. That's what scares me about this contract. However, he did raise his stock after throwing a touchdown in the Super Bowl, which is probably, I think that's the reason he got this big of a contract to begin with. But as Chicago has been known, they want to help obviously we just talked about it, they want to help out Trubisky. You've got a couple of solid tight end guys, but you don't know their futures going forward. And Trey Burton is not a bad signing. I just think it's a little much on the money side, given what we've seen on the field so far. I think he's a good talent that's going to help them out. I just want to see the production in year 1 before I can really judge it 100% of the way through. That's my feelings on it.
All right. I'm a little bit more positive on it. I really like Trey Burton. I've been a big fan of Trey Burton. Dylan knows this. AC knows this as well.
I'm a fan.
I'm a fan. I like him a lot. The only flaw I think about Trey Burton is he's not the most willing blocker. He's not a great blocker. But overall, he's a good joker piece, and I think he can definitely do similar things that Travis Kelce did in Kansas City, and I think Matt Nagy can use him in that way. To me, he's sort of a Jordan Reed type guy, and I think that, maybe not as good, obviously, but I think he is solid. He makes a lot of big catches. He made a lot of them last year. He filled in when Zach Ertz was injured and did a really good job there. So I think this is a guy that came into free agency. I was very, very much intrigued to see how much money he was going to get, because I thought this is a guy coming to free agency that, is a little bit unproven, but when he's been able to shine, he's really shown up and played in big spots. And he's kind of this unique athlete with this interesting skill set that I think could be utilized in an offense like this one in Chicago and really be a pretty good player. So I like the signing overall. The money is the money. But I think that it's more of, we're looking at the potential of what Trey Burton can be in our offense, and I think he's going to open up a lot. I think he's going to open up the middle of the field for this offense. You have Allen Robinson, Cameron Meredith on the outside. You have the run game. They also drafted a tight end last year, Sheehan or someone like that. Sheehan. I always forget how to pronounce his name.
Sheehan, yeah.
Sheehan, yeah, that guy. He hasn't really turned out to be 100% go-to receiver kind of guy, but he's also more that blocking kind of inline tight end, and you bring in Trey Burton and you have some flexibility with that position. So I really like the signing. I'm looking forward to see what Trey Burton can do in this offense. And like I said, I think he can do some Travis Kelce-like things in this offense. And I think he's actually going to have a really good first year with Trubisky, because Trubisky is a young quarterback. And where do young quarterbacks like to throw? Their safety blankets, the tight end. So we'll see him probably have a pretty good season this year. So that's our thoughts on Trey Burton signing with the Bears. The next one, Case Keenum. Your boy, Case Keenum, Dilly Vanilli. He is signed with the Denver Broncos. According to you, I'm taking this as your information, 2-year, $36 million. That's $3 more million.
Heard this from a Denver beat reporter, so I just want to point that out. Anybody calls me wrong if the information comes
$3 more million than Sam Bradford, 1 more year than Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Let's evaluate this signing.
Okay. Well, I think he should be getting more money than Bradford, first off. I think there's no question about that. After the NFC Championship game appearance, you have to at least give him more money than Bradford. Denver, I don't know where John Elway's head is at as a GM. I don't know if he doesn't want to rebuild. I see that as he wants to win now. So I think with Case Keenum, it's you brought it up. I think he wants to help. You have Case Keenum, but then also build Paxton Lynch as something of value. Contract. I don't think it's the worst deal in the world, and I think Case Keenum pretty much got his value for what he's worth. But at the same time, I don't think Denver really solidified their quarterback. I think they really wanted to get Kirk Cousins, and they're taking this as a compensation. I think that's what I'm seeing out of it. I don't think it's the worst signing. Not that much. 2 years. You're only investing 2 years, but your defense doesn't have that much longer to go. Keep to leave. You guys released him, so he's gone. There's a bunch of defensive talent that's also going to get older and in their prime years, going to have to deal with maybe quarterbacks that aren't going to win for them. But that being said, if he works in this offense, that's great. We have to see the value on this one. I think this is a one where we could judge as it is right now, but I think we need to see a couple of games in. Hey, is this going to work? Is John Elway find some kind of diamond in the rough? I just known from GM experience of John Elway that it's been very inconsistent in terms of picking the right player. But then again, this one isn't a draft player, so maybe that is a good thing if you bring somebody in free agency. I think there's positives and negatives to both of it. He's got 2 receivers in Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas who have had their stats falling for the last couple of seasons. So maybe he can help one or both of them get to at least a little bit more promise. I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted with this whole contract here, but it's not that much money and it's not that many amount of years if it's this report.
Yeah, so $23 million. 2 years. I think it's a tough question to answer because is Case Keenum the guy that played for Minnesota this past year? Is he the guy that was playing for the Rams? Is he somewhere in the middle? Who is Case Keenum? Now, I was a believer in Case Keenum all regular season long last year. When it came to the playoffs, he had ups and downs. Overall, he was pretty good. Against the Eagles, the game kind of just unraveled and nobody really played well on the Vikings. So I don't know if you can really chalk it up to Case Keenum not playing well. He did throw an interception. But
crucial one.
A crucial one. But at the same time, like, this is the type of player you're getting with Case Keenum. I think you're getting a player that can make the throws. I think you're getting a player that is bold. You're getting a player that is a great guy. But he's a little bit of a gambler. He plays with that edge to his game where he's rather going to throw a touchdown or throw a pick six on a couple of plays. So sometimes you're going to get great and sometimes you're going to get bad. It's just a matter of what are you going to get more with Case Keenum. And to me,
look at it.
I don't think he's going to a better situation than he had in Minnesota. I think Denver has a lot of questions. I think Denver has a lot of questions on offense, with their offensive line, with their running game. And of course, Minnesota had that support with him. Although they didn't have Dalvin Cook, they did have Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon, and they had a good offensive line overall at run blocking and getting, running pretty efficiently. And he had 2 receivers similarly to in Denver. He has that as well. I think Denver, those receivers still got it. I think it was a matter of who was throwing him the ball, to be honest. But defensively, I still question whether the Broncos are that defense that they used to be. I thought the signing was going to happen the whole time. I've been predicting it forever, and if you guys have been hanging around on the channel, I've been predicting it. But that doesn't mean I absolutely love it. I think it's a good signing. It's only 2 years. I think it gives them time to kind of bridge at the quarterback position and find a future guy, because I don't think Case Keenum is the answer full long term. I think Case Keenum is a guy that can start. He might, if he plays well enough, could get you to the playoffs, but I don't think you're expecting anything great from Case Keenum. I think you're expecting from Case Keenum to get you from point A to point B with your next quarterback, and I think that's what he's really meant to do. And because it's only 2 years, yeah, it's a lot of money. I don't think it's all that bad. And I'm not really sure where the Broncos are at as a team. Are they still in championship window territory, or are they sort of in rebuild territory? So that's kind of the question that I have. I don't know where the Broncos are because their quarterback play has been so terrible. So that's just where I'm at. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad, Dylan.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see the production. And also, it kind of seems like the Viking situation for him. It seems like he went from one similar situation to the next, where the Vikings were like,
I think he can do a pretty serviceable job in a similar role. Like, he's not, he's going to make some plays, but he also knows how to control the clock and be that sort of game managing quarterback. But at the same time, last year for the Vikings, he won a lot of those games. He made a lot of big time throws. So it's just a matter of what you believe in with Case Keenum, and also what do you believe the Broncos to be? Those are 2 big questions. And I don't know if those are yet to be answered. We'll see this season. And coming up, but I think the Broncos still need to improve a lot of their team.
They'll be probably the hardest team to get their predictions correct, honestly. I think that'll be the hardest one.
One of them, at least, yeah. So, Case Keenum goes to the Broncos, 2-year deal, $36 million. The next deal is your boy, Anthony Hitchens.
My boy.
Dilly Vanilli,
Yes.
the former Dallas Cowboy linebacker. He signs with the Chiefs, or he plans to sign, as I should always say. The deal is worth $9 million per season, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport.
For 1 year, or what do you mean per season?
Per season. I don't know how many years it is. I think it's 2, 3. I think it's 3 years, but I'll recheck.
Okay. Here's the thing about Anthony Hitchens. We were never going to pay him that much. I like the guy. I think, he was quite underrated on our defense last year. But the thing is we've got a lot of linebacker help right now. Like Sean Lee is one of the best in the game. Jalen Smith is getting a lot better. We started to grow as a player towards the course of the year. I think we have a lot of linebacker depth. So I don't think keeping Hitchens was the biggest priority for us. And especially considering we have a lot of people that we want in free agency. We need a little bit of cap space to try to go get somebody. Hitchens was just going to have to be one of those guys. We're going to have to let him decide to go in free agency. It's sad because I like him. I wish him the best in Kansas City. As far as Kansas City goes, their defense was absolutely atrocious last year. So the fact that they're getting anybody on help is a positive for them. And a guy like Hitchens who can make some really good tackles, I think, especially on third down, he's a very good tackler. I think it's a solid pickup for them, especially considering they've dealt a couple players. They obviously dealt Peters away, so they need some help in the front seven, I think, for sure. So a guy like Hitchens, not a bad signing.
Overall, what type of player are they getting in Anthony Hitchens, in your opinion? Like, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? You've watched him the most. I know him pretty well. I'm a fan of him. I think he's a good player. But overall, what have you taken away as a Cowboys fan that you think the Chiefs will be getting in Hitchens?
Okay. We just got a new deal from Aaron Colvin. He's going to sign a 4-year deal.
I saw that. Don't worry, I'm writing it down, bro.
I thought it was Adam Schefter today. Okay, I'm just kidding. I think Anthony Hitchens, I think he's a good hitter. I think he can make some really good tackles, which, considering how bad I've seen the Dallas Cowboys tackling in the last, one of the better players out there to do it for our team. Third down, like I said, he's a very good linebacker on third down. I think his vision sometimes is a concern. I think in some places he'll get distracted going to one side and then he'll get beat on another side. I think he can do very well on the run. Passing is kind of mixed. I think he can do some plays very well. Another plays it's not really designed for him to make a play. I think they're going to get a hard worker, a guy that can put in the work and make that team a lot better and be serviceable. I think in Dallas he wasn't called on obviously as much as Sean Lee. So for him, I think he'll be worth it in Chiefs Nation, Red Nation, if you will. I think they'll be getting a guy that's a hard worker and a guy that I like. I'm going to cheer for him personally.
All right. In my opinion, I think Anthony Hitchens is a pretty solid overall player. I don't think he's worth $9 million a year.
I don't think so either.
I think that's putting him in Dante Hightower territory, which I think is a lot for Anthony Hitchens, a guy that's never really been considered a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro or anything like that. But he's a good player. And definitely the Chiefs addressed their need. They needed probably the biggest need on their entire team was middle linebacker, especially with letting go Derek Johnson. They need to shore that up. So in that
we got released as well. So
yeah, so that's outside. But with their 3-4, I mean, inside linebacker, they've been missing that position for a couple of years. They finally get a guy that can do that. Like Dylan said, he's a pretty good all-around player. He's, he can blitz fairly decently well. He's a very good tackler, consistent run defender, pretty smart guy. He's still young. I think he's only 26 or 27. 25, okay. 25. He did have his best season as a pro last year, even though he only started 12 games overall. And I think I've always liked him as his career has gone on. So it's just a guy, again, another contract that's kind of more based off potential that is a lot kind of left unknown. But I think Anthony Hitchens overall is a pretty solid player and definitely will be a plug and play there for Kansas City. Definitely their starting middle linebacker next year. And they needed that need. pretty badly. So Anthony Hitchens going to Kansas City. The next move, Star Lotulelei intends to sign a 5-year deal with the Buffalo Bills when free agency happens. Of course, the Panthers' former defensive tackle, arguably the best name in the NFL, Star Lotulelei, will sign with the Buffalo Bills. 5 years. Woo! I don't know the money, but it seems like a lot with 5 years attached to it. The Bills, Star Lotulelei. What do you think, Dylan? This is an interesting move.
I don't know. Like I don't know
what the money is, so it's tough to kind of like talk about it. But I honestly felt like Star was a guy in his rookie year and even his second year that was like really promising, like a really solid player. Mm-hmm. And then he's just taken a backseat to who's the other guy there in Quan Short. He's taken a backseat to Quan Short in Carolina, who's been a really good defensive tackle. I think they were drafted in the same year, and Quan Short just kind of showed out, and he's that better guy overall. And Star was kind of that second rotation run stopper sort of guy. Star to me isn't really like a pass rusher from the inside. He's kind of like a run stopper. He's a 4-3 D tackle. I don't think he has a lot of versatility in terms of a 3-4 guy. I think he's just a 4-3 guy overall. But he's going to Buffalo. They play a 4-3 there. Obviously, his head coach is a guy that coached him in Carolina. That has a lot to do with it, I think, on both sides. It could end up being a good deal. I don't know the money, so I can't really judge it from that perspective. But I do think that Star has been a guy that's sort of underachieved the last couple of years. But with him there, the Panthers have always had a really good run defense. So that's what I can say in positive towards Star Lotulelei.
I think there are positives about him. Obviously I think he's a good rush guy. The thing is I don't know if Buffalo is going to be the best fit for him. And I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I do want to see the money. I don't want to say like, hey, this is going to be the worst deal out of them all because I don't know the money. The
interesting part about it is not even the money. It's the 5-year part.
Yeah. He's been with Carolina since 23. So he's been since too. So.
And to me, he's been like a good D tackle, but I wouldn't have considered him one of the best defensive linemen in free agency.
No, I think he was pretty much in the middle of the pack, honestly. I don't want to say it's baffling, but the 5 years is kind of like I'm kind of questioning.
And again, like I said, I think his head coach, the Bills head coach, obviously used to be the defensive coordinator for Carolina. So I think that has a lot, like everything to do with this deal. Mm-hmm. There's a personal connection. There's Star knowing what he is going to be in that scheme. There's the coach's recognition of what Star is as a player. I think that had a lot to do with it. But again, 5 years for a guy that I would consider a little bit overrated the last couple of years, it's a little skeptical to me.
So that's one of our least favorite deals.
I guess honestly. So. Yeah.
We just don't know about the money. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
If it's cheap, why not? But
all right, we got a lot more deals. Let's continue.
Yes.
The Dolphins are planning to sign former Chiefs wide receiver Albert Wilson to a 3-year deal worth $24 million when the league year begins. Sources say Albert Wilson is a receiver from the Chiefs that just had a career year. Actually, Dylan, if you could pull up his numbers, that would be very nice. But to me, what are the Dolphins getting as a player? I think Albert Wilson is extremely underrated. I think he is a very good receiver who's excellent after the catch. He is very similar to Jarvis Landry, in my opinion. He's a guy that gets the ball in his hands. He can make a few moves. He's got the quicks, and he can get by you. He's okay at getting open on his own. I think this, like a system in Miami, will definitely help him. I think he's a slot receiver. They'll put him in the same role that Jarvis had. And I think this is a big replacement for Jarvis Landry. And we're going to see later that the Dolphins also sign another slot receiver. So it's very interesting to see what the Dolphins are doing with the receiver position. But Albert Wilson is a playmaker with the ball in his hands. And that's the biggest thing I can say about him. Now, 3 years, $24 million. To me, $8 million. Of course, all these guys seem to be overpaid. That, to me, is overpaid. When we're talking about receivers that, again, this is a guy just had a career year, is just coming into his own as a receiver. That's awesome. But when you consider guys
think,
like Julian Edelman are being paid like $3 million less a year, like
no effect. I think it's because one guy signed a really big contract, and now receivers are like, "Hey, I want that kind of money."
But at the same time, Dylan, I think that this is a good move because they get a player that's very close to Jarvis Landry. Not as good, but very close in terms of skill set, and they can do similar things with them, but it's for way less money.
Yeah. In 13 games this season, he had 42 catches, 554 yards, and 3 touchdowns. For a slot receiver that's not the greatest and missed 3 games out of that, I think that's pretty good. Albert Wilson is very underrated. I think he used his position in Kansas City very well. He's a small guy, but obviously a lot of slot receivers are very small. And we did, like you said, they did get another slot receiver that we'll talk about later on in this video. I know you'll be so happy to talk about that.
I'm dealing with it at the moment.
But yeah, Albert Wilson, I mean, he fit in the system. I think what really made him stand out was that the fact that he was in the Kansas City offense. They were very creative in the way that they used him, similar to, not what I'm thinking about Watkins and what he's going to do in Kansas
Just
City.
Recently this past year, though, he never really got used as much. Like every time he always flashed to me, though. Like he was one of those guys that I always thought he should be used more. And hopefully in Miami he is, because like every once in a while he'd get a catch and you just see him like, hold it. Like, how did he not get tackled there? Like, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, the yards after catch is great. He averaged, let me see here. Where is his average? How can I not? Okay, he averaged 13.2 yards per reception, which I think is pretty good. Obviously, the average is your first down. Yeah, Kansas City, I think they had a lot of, for a slot guy, yeah.
He's only 25.
That's good. He has 4 years of experience. There was a bunch of guys in Kansas City where they were using as weapons. Obviously, Kelsey and Tyreek Hill are their number ones. But I think a guy going into Miami, we don't know about the quarterback, the question yet for Miami. If they get somebody, if they use them well, with the receiver talent that they just got today as well, they'll miss Jarvis Landry. But considering Jarvis Landry also didn't have a lot of yards per catch this season due to his quarterback, I think this would be a solid addition here. I like it.
All right, Dylan.
We're going to talk about him now?
We're going to talk about my boy, legend, playoff Danny Amendola. Tears are coming to my eyes, Dylan.
Oh, yeah?
Tears are coming to my eyes. I may not be able to say this. Dylan, help me out here. Danny Amendola is expected to sign with the Miami Dolphins 2 years, $12 million. There's incentives in there. $8.25 million guaranteed. I understand why the Patriots didn't sign him after looking at the contract. Because he's making more than everyone except for Brandon Cooks on the team. So he would have been the second highest paid receiver. I'm sure the Patriots had an offer on the table. I'm sure it wasn't anywhere close to that, because I think that Danny Amendola would have came back if it was something pretty reasonable. But you got to think about it in a couple of ways. Danny Amendola is a guy that's accomplished a lot. He has been injured a lot. He is a guy that is on the last couple of years of his NFL career. And look, he's going to Miami for the last couple of years of his career.
Going to the AFC rival.
No. And it's not that. It's not that he's going to Miami to play for the Dolphins. It's that he's going to Miami to finish his career. Like, Miami's a nice place to go to finish your career, especially considering your wife to be is a famous model who is super attractive, but that's a side point. That probably has a lot to do with it. I'm sure Danny is thinking about the future without football, what's going to happen with him and Olivia and all that sort of stuff in his life. He's also a guy that I'm sure has a lot of off the field opportunities. Him and Edelman have kind of, broken out and done some things, but Amendola to me is a guy that's always going to be a Patriot legend. One of my favorite players to watch over the past couple of years, a absolutely supremely clutch player.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't think there is another guy that has been more clutch than Danny Amendola outside of possibly Julian Edelman. But besides that,
one catch.
Danny Amendola is right there with the clutchest of receivers in the NFL. And of all time, really, like, to be honest, like, he's in that pantheon of guys that have, when the biggest moments have come up, he has made the plays, especially for the Patriots. And this is a guy that I think came a long way as a Patriot player. He went from being sort of that guy that replaced the legendary Wes Walker, who everybody thought was overpaid for a season or two. But then once that 2014 season came around and they made the playoffs, and that was that magical year where everyone kind of thought there was a chance to win the Super Bowl, like more than any other that year with Revis. And then Amendola kind of came together in that season with Edelman and just clutch play after clutch play, touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I think he got a touchdown in every Super Bowl, but I'm not sure. He caught that crazy Edelman pass against the Ravens, the great plays against the Jaguars. He has so many legendary moments as a Patriot. He's definitely going to be remembered from all Patriots fans. But, you know, going to the enemy, it doesn't bug me too much. I've seen it before with the Patriots. I've seen them let guys go before. It's not, I'll get over it. But Danny Amendola is a guy that I think he's going to come into Miami. He's going to help that team. He's going to bring experience. He's going to bring a great guy in the locker room. He's going to bring a hard-working guy on and off the field, and definitely going to help out whoever the quarterback is because he has that experience. He's a savvy receiver who knows how to get open, when to get open, and where to place himself in zone coverage. He's just an all-around really good receiver, and he had a really good year last year with Julian Edelman out, so he definitely deserves the money. I just think, you know, New England probably couldn't afford him, given all the other receivers they have. You know, they have Edelman, Cooks, Hogan, Mitchell, Britt, Dorsett that are all on the roster right now. So
many receivers.
Yeah, Amendola had to probably go unless he was going to come super cheap. And the guy's been taking pay cut after pay cut. I don't blame him for going to Miami. I wish him the best. And Danny will always be remembered as a Patriot legend. Dylan, your thoughts on Danny Amendola going to Miami?
My less important ones. I did get a Adam Schefter retweet in the middle of you talking, discussing the context of Amendola going to the Dolphins. It says the Dolphins were hot on him internally before free agency even started. They see him as a great fit on and off the field. Key factor will be managing his health. Belichick preserved him for the playoffs. Miami's not in the position to do that, but Gase good at managing bodies in training camp. So that is the reasoning for getting Amendola. Amendola, like Mitch said, is clutch. That's one of the biggest things about him. If you look at his career, obviously he spent those first 4 seasons in St. Louis, kind of being used as a undervalued guy. Sometimes he had some really good seasons. His second year, 85 catches, 689 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's not bad. That's actually pretty decent, all things considered for the kind of guy he is as a slot. He is when he came into the Patriots organization, I mean, you got to look at it as like, this is obviously a win for him. Like, his career has won because he's gone to the Patriots. You know, 5 seasons, 2 Super Bowls, a third one right almost there. So he's got 2 Super Bowls under him. He was extremely clutch throughout the course of his career. The last game you could obviously look at is the AFC Championship game where he caught that big touchdown with Tom Brady, the amazing catch. He's had some really good seasons under his belt. 2015, 65 catches, 648 yards, 3 touchdowns. Last season in particular was maybe his best season of his career. Maybe 61 catches, 659 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had a good playoff run. He's got 13 career playoff games under his belt. I could see the reasoning as to why he was going to go to Miami. He has done pretty much all that he could do with the Patriots. The Patriots have so much talent at the receiver that somebody was going to have to go. And they probably didn't want it to be Amendola, but given the contract that it seems to be, he was going to have to go somewhere else. He was going to want to take that contract. He's 30, he's 33 coming into this next season. So the age for him is getting up there. But 5-year contract, the Dolphins see it as a good benefit for them, considering how many question marks they've had over the last couple of years and whether or not they can do anything. Good for them. Good for Amendola. He's had a very successful career in New England, and I'm imagining many people feel like Mitch feel that he will be missed. So good for him. Good signing for the Dolphins going forward, and they needed it. Money-wise, a lot of money, but we'll see how it goes.
Bro, I'm tearing up.
Teared up. It's the end of an era. The curve.
All right, let's go. Let's go from one Patriot and now former Patriot to another former Patriot.
Okay.
Of lower degree, but the Lions have re-signed safety Tavon Wilson to a 2-year, $7 million deal. This is a guy that, to me, as a Patriot, never really fit into the New England system, the New England scheme in Detroit, since being signed by former GM Bob Quinn, has been very successful. Year in, year out, pretty consistent with the Lions, gives them a versatile player and safety for the most part, and that's been one of the strengths of the Detroit defense is their safety position. Him and Glover Quinn have kind of created a pretty good tandem there. And overall just gives them a guy that's versatile. He's good against the run support, pretty good in coverage, can cover tight ends, that sort of thing. And he's a good overall player. I kind of think of him as a similar sense to Patrick Chung in that way. Not quite as good, but I feel like he's a similar player. I think this is a smart move by the Lions. I think the Lions actually made quite a few smart moves. We'll get to that today. But Tavon Wilson re-signing, 2-year, $7 million deal. Any thoughts on that, Dylan?
I mean, it's a pretty cheap contract. 2 years, $7 million. The Lions, obviously, they've got a lot of things to look at in terms of who they want to get. And I don't think they want to spend too much money on, I don't want to say lower players, but not as great talent. Why not? I mean, he's not a bad player. I think he's just right in probably the decent territory. We know who the number one star on that defense is, so it's definitely not him. 2 years, $7 million? Why not? I got no problem with it.
Yeah, I think another factor, obviously, with Tavon Wilson is Matt Patricia factor. He's the head coach of the Lions now, and obviously there's some familiarity there, and probably Matt Patricia's bringing in some guys that fits his scheme, and obviously Tavon Wilson, a guy that already has previous knowledge of it. So they're keeping him around. Good overall re-signing. Next up, the legendary New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees re-signs to a 2-year worth $50 million deal with the Saints. That's less money than Kirk Cousins, just so you know.
That's
2 years.
A lot of money.
2 years. It looks like this is the last deal of Drew Brees' career. Drew Brees going to remain a Saint for 2 more seasons. Going to break and shatter records. Going to possibly go to the Super Bowl, win one, and retire. Dylan, what's your thoughts on Drew Brees retaining with the Saints?
Well, Drew Brees has always been one of those guys that you gotta love. He is the stat man. He's got records for days, and he will probably break more records in the next 2 seasons. As they proved last season, the Saints are still very capable of making a run far into the playoffs. I know they lost in the divisional, but had the Minnesota Miracle not happened, they would have been at least competing in the NFC Championship game. Drew Brees proved that he's still a very, very good quarterback. He has a good support system around him. They actually got something last year, Mitch, that I didn't think existed in New Orleans, and that's called a defense. I didn't know if they knew that term.
What?
Yeah, they got a couple defensive players. I didn't know they did.
What's a defense?
Man,
I'm a Patriots fan. I don't know what that is.
Oh
either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm in Dallas, so don't bother either. But they actually got something, a support system around him, because the 3 seasons he went 7-9, they had no defense. He had decent players, but he couldn't do any more than what the defense could do. So with him, he still put up some really good numbers. He had to take a step back because his running backs were absolutely fucking boss. So I don't think that's any problem for him taking the load off.
And helps him.
Yeah, it takes the workload off of him to not throw, for 5,000 yards every season. I mean, he probably still will, but good for him. Last 2 years on his contract, or last 2 years of his career, probably. He's still playing at a very high level, honestly. I still think he's probably outside of the border range of a top 5 QB right now, maybe close to it. And 2 years, $50 million, a lot of money, but he's been loyal to the team. He's been there for over 10 seasons, and he got them their only Super Bowl, so good for them.
Yeah, Drew Brees, a legend. It's good to see that he's going back to New Orleans. And I think that they do have a legitimate shot these next 2 years to make a run and to potentially win a Super Bowl. They have the team built around him. Their defense is improving. A lot of young players on good contracts and a running game that will definitely help him out, even if he does kind of take a step back, which I don't think he'll take too big of a step back before he retires in the next 2 years. So we'll see with Drew Brees. But you can never overpay a guy like him. So Drew Brees resigns with the Saints. The next deal is another guy that at one point was considered one of the best players at his position. Former Lions defensive tackle Haloti Ngata intends to sign a 1-year deal with Dylan's rival, the Philadelphia Eagles.
How the Eagles keep getting these people? I don't understand.
They can not just people. They continue to get defensive linemen. If they didn't already have enough defensive linemen, they got Haloti Ngata. Now, if they got like 2008 Haloti Ngata, I'd be supremely scared. But this is 2018 Haloti Ngata. He is decent. I think he can come in and to me, what this signing says is it's a 1-year deal. And to me, this also says Haloti Ngata might not even be on the team.
He might not.
No, seriously. Like, it's a 1-year deal. It's a deal where I've seen it plenty of times with my Patriots. They sign these veteran players to 1-year deals. They bring them into camp, and if they still got it, they still got it, and they keep them around. If they don't, they release them, and they say goodbye, and they retire. But Haloti Ngata probably wanted to go somewhere where he could win, go somewhere where he could get a ring.
Because the Lions ain't going to provide that for him.
The Lions probably not. So the Eagles, they got a chance to do it. They got a chance to repeat. And with Haloti Ngata, to me, what this is a guy that can come in and sub for Fletcher Cox when needed. Or if Fletcher Cox gets hurt, he can come in and do similar things. Because Haloti Ngata on short sprints and spurts can be like what he used to be like Fletcher Cox. So like he can do similar things, and he's definitely still a good run stopper. Not much of a pass rusher anymore. But he can still do some things there in rotation as a defensive lineman. And I think overall this is a no-risk deal for a veteran player just to see if something is left in the tank.
Yeah, for sure. If we were getting Ravens-Steelers rivalry Haloti Ngata, I'd be scared. I wouldn't want to deal with that ever. But that's not the case. Yeah, I mean, when I see 1-year deals, it's like, I don't see much of a risk there, and especially for how good the defensive line for the Eagles is and how stacked that they're already making themselves. Well, I'll give credit to the Eagles in this. They just won a Super Bowl, and they're continuing to make acquisitions and stuff in the free agency to make themselves even better for next season. They're prepared for what's coming up. So the management for Philadelphia has gotten increasingly better since the Chip Kelly days. I appreciate them for that. Well, not as a Cowboys fan, but as an NFL analyst. Yeah, not much risk here. I don't know the money, but it's probably not a lot. So, cool.
Okay. Next move is a big one.
A big one.
Former Giants center guard Weston Richburg intends to sign a 5-year deal. I don't know the money. With the San Francisco 49ers in free agency. As everybody knows, the 49ers are one of my teams that are not my team, but I sort of root for them.
Yeah, the closet teams. You got them. You got the Chargers.
I got them, the Chargers, somewhat the Bears.
You're Matthew Stafford just by himself.
Just him. No, probably the Lions. I'd consider it.
Yeah, the Lions? Okay. So
okay. Those are like the teams that I like, but I don't like. So, they're like side bays, but they're not like bay.
Okay. Don't worry. I got them too.
Yeah. So, Weston Richburg, to me, was the best center on the market for any team to get in this free agency. The San Francisco 49ers, they address a need. They need help on the interior offensive line. They go out, they sign Weston Richburg, who, like I said, best center on the market. Yeah, he's been a little bit injured, has a little bit of concussion concerns. But when he plays, he has the potential and has been at times one of the best centers in the league. So the 49ers it's a 5-year deal, but I think he's only 27. So like it's a pretty good deal for a 27-year-old center. Seeing as what Andrew Norwell got. Now, Richburg isn't on the same level as Norwell, but he's a good player. Overall, he's definitely going to help their run game, their pass game. And it's always important to get a good center for a young quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. Plus, the center does a lot in Shanahan's system. He has to be very agile to move left and right, and especially in their stretch run scheme. And I think that the 49ers got a good deal here. I don't know the money, but a 5-year, they lock up a center for these next few years. Really, the thing that's interesting about the 49ers is they're locking up a lot of players for the same amount of length that John Lynch Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo are all signed.
Really?
Like, I just noticed that a lot of their contracts are all almost identical. Like, they're trying to get people for 4, 5, 6 years. They're trying to build this team for the next few years that everybody is signed for so that they can get that good, like, chemistry and get a good run going with these guys. And I think the 49ers are a team they're being aggressive, and they realize that they can make something happen here in just this year, next year, or even year after that. You know, they can make something happen. They can go to the playoffs right away, and they're being aggressive in order to do so. What's your thoughts on the Richburg signing overall, Dylan?
I think it's a very good signing. Like you said, he's probably the best center we got available here in the free agency market. Obviously, seeing him as a Giant, it was hard to see the positives of that offensive line for the Giants, but they did do. Richburg was probably the standout of that group for sure. And San Francisco, like you said, they're very aggressive. They want to have a team centered around Garoppolo to where, like, hey, we got trust. We've got a full team capable of doing these things correctly. And Richburg, I think, is a good signing. I want to see the money on it, but I honestly, as long as it's not ludicrous, I don't think it's a bad signing whatsoever. And the 49ers want to build themselves for contenders this season, next season, the season after, like you brought up with these long contracts. So, good signing. Interested to see the money.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard to overpay an offensive defensive lineman. Of course, it always happens when they get hurt or whatever. But like,
as long as you're not Albert Hansworth, you're
yeah. I mean, like, it is hard to do that because your goal in the NFL, it still is. It's 2018, but ever since 1958. You've been wanting to dominate the line of scrimmage. And if you can do that, and if you can have a strong offensive line, you're probably going to have a pretty good offense. If you can have a strong defensive line, you're probably going to have a pretty good defense. So overall, it's tough to overpay those sort of guys, and I think Richburg was a nice signing here by the 49ers.
Yep.
All right, just a few more to go, and then we'll get to all of the comments.
There's so many.
So, guys, be patient. Next, the New York Giants linebacker, Devin Kennard. I believe that's how. I've never really, it's a guy that I know, but I never really, talk about him, I guess. But yeah. New York Giants linebacker Devin Kennard agreed to a 3-year, $18.75 million deal with the Detroit Lions, as well as Chicago linebacker Christian Jones, who also agreed to a 2-year, $7.75 million deal with the Lions. So, do you know what position, Dylan, the Lions were trying to address?
If I had to guess, I'm going to go with the linebacker position.
Yes, so they get two guys who I think are both kind of underrated. Devin Kennard is a guy for the Giants he's been a starter. He's 26 years old, pretty good speed. I'm trying to find his stats, but it's kind of actually difficult. Okay, so he has 203 tackles in his career, 9.5 sacks. This past season, he started 11 of 15 games. He's been playing in the league since 2014. To me, he's a guy that has some versatility. He is a very, very much a Belichick, Patricia, Patriot linebacker. He's 6'4", 256. That's like Patriot linebacker built in lab.
That is ridiculous.
That's but that's like the type of player and type of linebacker that the Patriots like, and obviously the Lions trying to bring a similar but different scheme and logic to the team. Kennard can do those things, and obviously 4 sacks this year shows a little bit of promise as a pass rusher, even though he was playing in a 4-3 scheme, which doesn't really allow him to do a ton of that. And it has enough agility and ability and athleticism to be a guy that can play in a 4-3 or 3-4 scheme, has the size to do so. I think this is going to be a very interesting fit for the Lions. I think it's actually a really good signing because of the potential he has in this system. I'd look out for him this year. I think he could really have a breakout year with the Lions. I think this is going to be a really interesting signing. And then also touching on the Christian Jones signing, this to me is another underrated player. Again, trying to pull up his statistics. But Christian Jones, a linebacker this past season, who played 16 games, started 11 of them, had 90 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble. To me, he's best known as a cover linebacker, but this is a guy that's also 6'3", 245. Big, again, 27. So guys at 27, 26 years old, 2 mid-tier free agents. This is just textbook New England Patriot-like to me. Like, this is Bob Quinn, this is Matt Patricia going out and addressing needs that they desperately need. And trust me, the Lions really needed some linebackers. These guys can both come in and play starting type roles for them. Especially, both of them really, but like Jones can kind of give a little bit more of a cover guy and a little bit more of a middle linebacker type. And then Kennard can come in and give more of a pass rusher type of player. So I like both the signings. I think they both have flexibility and versatility, and I'm looking forward to both these players playing on the Lions.
For Kennard, I think it's a very solid signing. 3 years, $18.75 million. A really good contract, honestly. I like that for $6 million, basically a little more than $6 million. It's solid. Of course, the Detroit Lions defense has been very on and off. Do I trust them? Do I not trust them? Can they make the big plays down the stretch? Their linebacker help was vastly needed. So both of these guys are big helps. Evan Kennard, I've seen a lot of because he's a Giant. So I like what I see out of him. Christian Jones, even cheaper deal. I think an even better deal considering what you're getting the value for him. Big type linebackers like you brought up. So I think the Lions are going to be very interested to use these players in certain roles. And Matt Patricia, he is the defensive genius, if you will. I mean, not last season, but, he's the guy that's going to use these guys probably the best way possible. And the Lions need the help, all the help they really can get on the defense, especially in that front seven. So good signing. Both of them very good signings for cheap deals.
All right. Let's talk about some kickers. Cody Parkey tends to sign with the Chicago Bears. And what was the other one? Dustin Hopkins gets a 3-year deal worth $6.875 million with the Redskins. Your thoughts on the kickers re-signing? Any thoughts at all?
Why is the signing bonus for Hopkins such a certain number?
It's very strange. It's like $1,201,072.
Here's your $72, bud. Make an extra point. Okay, for Cody Parkey, he's a good kicker. I like it. I obviously last season he did well for the Dolphins. Going to the Bears, the Bears have had a lot of questions as their kicker, so they need somebody reliable. Cody Parkey, good kicker. Dustin Hopkins, I think he's actually been one of the more underrated kickers in the league. He is getting a decent amount of money, all things considered, and a 3-year deal. They like what they see out of him, so I think that's the better one of the two. Good signing by both.
Yeah, I think the big one is with the Bears, and I think we can't really underestimate. I know they're kickers, but we can't underestimate the impact of kickers.
They're very valuable.
Like this past year, we saw the Chargers miss the playoffs because their kickers couldn't make a freaking field goal. And they had an Asian kicker. So that being said,
whoa, what did the Asian thing have to do?
Young Chu, whatever his name was. Not trying to be racist, but bro, white guys don't. White guys aren't sprinters. They're not sprinters, all right? Let's just say that. Black guys don't swim, and Asians don't kick. How about that, all right? Okay, let's just say that, Dilly Vanilli.
At all, but okay.
Okay?
That's a good one.
All right.
I mean, hold on. They had a white kicker, too, that didn't even make their own side.
Yeah, and the white kickers, okay, they suck. The kickers across the league, not very good. I mean, there's a few pretty good ones, but then every once in a while, like Dan Bailey, they have like this midlife crisis.
I don't know what he was going through in the last couple games.
Like, you can never underestimate signing kickers. Now, the only thing about signing kickers is why they sign them like right now. Like, I don't know, but whatever. They sign them
like, I want them now.
It's like all these big guys we'd sign: Allen Robinson, Kirk Cousins. The quarterbacks, the guards, the big players. And then you got Cody Parkey and Dustin Hopkins. Not complaining. The kickers are important, and they should be valued even more than they have been recently because of the terrible year that has been kicking this past year, and because of the way that extra points have now influenced the game because there's a lot more missed extra points.
Hell, Gronkowski saw that in the Super Bowl. So.
Yes, kickers are a lot more important, but still, I think it's interesting. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay.
The Bills have re-signed to a 1-year deal, D-tackle Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams, to me, has been a supremely underrated player for his entire career. Not the same player he used to be, but still a very good player. He'll come in. Obviously, they signed Star Lotulelei to be more of the starting role. But Kyle Williams, at times, when I watched the Bills, he was still one of the best players on the field for them as a defensive tackle. And he can still do a lot of things. He can play the run. He's of course the biggest leader on their team, arguably, especially defensively. He's one of their emotional leaders. He's just really good to have in the locker room. Still a quality player, still a rotational guy, and I think it's a quality re-signing by the Bills. And I don't think he's ever played anywhere else. So Kyle Williams looks to probably retire with the Bills. I think he's like 37 or something like that. So he's getting up there in age, but still a quality player and still has something left. Dylan, any thoughts on Kyle?
He's the loyal guy. We were talking about the NBA a couple days ago in the chat.
AC, stop being a pussy, AC.
That'll be saved for tape later. Now, he's the
nobody's going to understand that.
Nobody will, but it's great because it's funny. But Kyle Williams, he's one of those guys. He wants to be with the team. He's obviously not anywhere near his prime, but he's still, a 1-year deal. He loves the team. He loves the franchise. They finally got to the playoffs for the first time last season in probably, I think, his entire career, honestly, which is sad. But all things considered, a solid guy you want to have, and the Bills look to making some moves. So, good deal.
Former Bill Paul Posluszny retires, also a member of Jacksonville. Very shocking. I thought he was going to go somewhere. I guess it was probably, are the Jags going to re-sign me or am I going to retire? That's probably what he was thinking at the end of the day. But, hey, this is a guy, had some injury issues in the past, and we've seen a lot of linebackers retire early because of those sort of issues. That probably had something to do with it. I think, this is a guy that's, to me, still a player. He could still play in the NFL. He's not great anymore and really never was like an upper echelon linebacker, but always a solid guy, very good tackler, good leader. And, I'll miss saying his name on Sundays.
Posluszny. I don't know. He made it to the Pro Bowl once. I think he technically, other than that season, had his best year last year. We saw a lot of good things out of him. I'm kind of confused as to why he's retiring, but, hats off to him, I guess. I guess he made his money. I guess maybe the situation of him only being re-signed with Jacksonville or leaving might be the thing. But yeah. I don't know. Good, obviously a solid player. I like him. Underrated.
Okay. Jaguars. Keeping on that subject. Former Jaguars corner, Aaron Colvin, intends to sign a 4-year deal with the Houston Texans, per source. So, as I said, the Texans really, really need a corner. They go out, they get one from a rival. The Jaguars went out, they took A.J. Bouye last year. Hey, we're going to take Aaron Colvin from you. Now, Aaron Colvin is a slot corner. At least he has been with the Jaguars and was a very good one last year. Of course, we know the Jaguars, probably the best secondary in the league last year. Super impressive. Colvin kind of flew under the radar because of the big names with Jalen Ramsey, with A.J. Bouye there. But Aaron Colvin, good, solid player, 4 years. I'm not sure the money. If you know, let me know. But again, good player. Can cover those slot receivers, good in press, man. He played a lot of that cover 3 scheme in Jacksonville. I think he'll be asked to play a little bit more man in Houston. Again, Houston's biggest need to me was corner, was defensive back. They have a very good front seven with a load of pass rushers, but to add a corner like Aaron Colvin in the mix is a very solid add to a team that should be around playoff contention. So, Dylan, what did you think of the Aaron Colvin signing 4 years with the Texans?
Okay, I'm trying to look for money. It does not look like you couldn't find anything. So, but I did find a stat that says since 2014, he ranks first in coverage snaps per touchdowns allowed, and he is way over anybody else on this chart. So, that is
really,
yes, way over everybody else. So that's good. Scandrick's on that list too. He's number 5. Anyways. But he's gone too.
In terms of positively, right?
Yes, and positive.
Okay, I was just wondering.
No, yeah, but yeah, we Scandrick's gone too. But yeah, Aaron Colvin, 4 years, like you said, this is somebody that the Texans vastly needed on defense. That's the biggest hurt. 4 years. I again, I've said this probably 5 times in this video. I want to see the money. I want to see how much he's making. But obviously, their secondary for the Jacksonville Jaguars was one of the best in the league last year. He was a decent help on that, and I think the Texans can use anything that they like. They vastly need somebody like him. Like they are desperate for a guy like Colvin. So it happened last year. Bouye going to there. This year, switching around.
Yeah, I think Colvin and slot corners in general, whether he's going to stay as a slot corner will be interesting or not, but that's his primary position as a Jaguar. Those guys are undervalued a lot, the same way that slot receivers are undervalued, because nickel defense, you play that a majority of the time anyway, so he's basically a starter. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where they play him in Houston, if he's the number 1, number 2, or number 3. Also, they probably have to think about re-signing Jonathan Joseph, one of their veteran corners, but Aaron Colvin will definitely come in and help that secondary that, like I said, worst part of their team last year. So Texans make a move to increase their chances of playing good football on defense with J.J. Watt back, Jadeveon Clowney there, and Whitney Merciless back. Probably going to have a pretty good defense. So, okay. Last thing, and then the comments. No, wait, 2 more. This is the last big one. The last one we'll just skim over. Actually, let's skim over this one. Okay. The Dolphins are re-signing DB Walt Aikens on a 2-year deal. I honestly have no idea who this is.
Good, because I don't know either.
I have never heard of him. I'm sorry, guys. I've never heard of him. Kevin Durcan, if you're in the chat, you're a Dolphins fan, let me know. Any Dolphins fans, let me know. I have never heard of this guy, and I've heard of everyone. I've never heard of this guy.
Okay, good, because I've never heard of him either.
Okay.
So we really skipped over that one.
The last one. Wide receiver Paul Richardson plans to sign a 5-year, $40 million deal with the Redskins, as Mike Garoppolo, not Garoppolo, reported. So Paul Richardson,
this is the worst
Seattle Seahawk, Kevin Olenek extraordinaire. He is going to the Washington Redskins. Redskins needed receivers desperately. Last year, failed experiment in Terrell Pryor. Last year, Josh Doxson sort of came into his own a little bit. They have a new quarterback in Alex Smith. The interesting part about this, I don't really think Paul Richardson fits their offense very well.
No.
And I don't think he fits their quarterback I don't think it's a good complement to what Alex Smith does well. Paul Richardson, to me, is a guy that fit Russell Wilson because he was a guy that could go deep, has some pretty good speed, good length, good, he's tall, and he can win jump balls because he has incredible jumping ability. But to me, he's not a guy that's consistently going to get open on his own and catch, in routes and slant routes and all the little dink and dunk throws that Alex Smith does well. And to me, that's not the type of receiver that meshes well with Alex Smith. I could be wrong. The Redskins said they wanted him because they can match his speed with Doxson's, size. So that's an interesting combination there. But to me, you still have 2 pretty unproven receivers. I still think that position needs to be upgraded in Washington. And I think this is a little bit of overpaying for a guy that, to me, hasn't shown enough. He's shown some flashes of promise and flashes of big playability, but he's not a consistent receiver, consistent contributor. And I guess that's just not really my type of guy. Dylan, what do you think?
Mitch, this is my pick for the worst contract of today. This is my worst pick. I like Paul Richardson. I even talked about having him as a Cowboys receiver just a few days ago on the channel, but I didn't think he was going to be worth $8 million per season. First off, I thought he was going to be like a $4 million guy, so half of the value I thought he was going to have. Second, the wide receiver talent that the Redskins have put themselves in has failed dramatically, like awfully bad. We saw with Terrell Pryor, that experiment did not work whatsoever. They let Deshaun Jackson walk the season before. They let 2,000-yard receivers, I can't think of the other one off the top of my head, had this problem last time, where they let him go this season. Josh Doxson,
Deshaun and Pierre.
What's up?
Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon.
Pierre Garçon, that was the other one. But last season they had Jamison Crowder, who had some really good season or really good
Oh
games.
yeah, they also have Jamison Crowder, which I should have brought up because he's their best receiver, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, now I got you. He was their best receiver last season. He had some good games, but also was inconsistent at times where you'd be like, "What? Whoa, where did he show up?" One game he would have the best game in fantasy, and the next week he had one catch for 10 yards. So I'm like, what's going on? Terrell Pryor failed miserably. Paul Richardson, I just don't. If you had him with Kirk Cousins, I think it would be a great signing, but I don't think it fits the Alex Smith quota. Like they're two completely different styles of QBs. It just doesn't work for me. And Paul Richardson, I just think he got, I don't want to say grossly overpaid, but considering what I thought his value was, I think he got overpaid a lot.
Dylan, maybe I'm underrating Paul Richardson, but he doesn't strike me as a guy that's good one-on-one. Like I don't like paying guys that much money that can't get themselves open.
No, I don't think and I also don't think he's the greatest route runner for Alex Smith. Like I don't think he's going to be
exactly like he's not a crisp route runner. To me, he's like a vertical guy that gets open from scramble drills.
Our biggest laughing point of the Seahawks season last year is that can anybody run a route in Seattle, and that's kind of the thing.
And block. But the thing about Paul Richardson is I thought he fits Seattle best because of his ability to kind of get open down the field and make jump ball crazy catches like what Russell Wilson. He fit Russell Wilson well.
He does not fit Alex Smith well. Just off
to me, he doesn't. Yeah.
Just off of looking at it right now. This is my pick for the worst contract. Now he's going to be making his money, and maybe that's why he chose the Redskins. He was probably getting more money here than I think anybody else. But the Redskins, I think, have shown incompetence a lot.
And the Redskins really needed a receiver, but I just don't think this is the right one.
But okay, so Allen Robinson got $42 million, and Sammy Watkins got $48 million. Why didn't they even invest their time in looking at those two guys? If that's the money they were going to give them, that's what's baffling to me. Because no offense to Paul Richardson, he's a good receiver, but I would not put him ahead of Watkins or Robinson whatsoever. That's just my feeling.
New report.
The
Panthers are expected to sign cornerback Bashaud Breeland. I always mess up. Bashaud Breeland. Okay, redo. The Panthers are expected to sign quarterback Bashaud Breeland of the Washington Redskins. Panthers really needed some corner help. Really needed some corner help. They got some corner help with Bashaud Breeland. He might be, he's going to definitely start on the outside. He's a guy, prototypical outside corner size. He's about 6 foot tall. He's pretty good. He improved this past season. He's had some inconsistencies in his career, but he's pretty good in man. Like I said, good size, fits the scheme pretty well. He's a very similar player to what they already have in James Bradbury to me. I think they can make a pretty good, competent duo. I'm not sure of the money, so I can't really talk about the money. But overall, this is a guy that started a lot of games, deserves to be a starting corner in the league. I think he'll come in and he'll definitely improve the Panthers. The Panthers, their problem the last couple of years, obviously corner and DB play, but this past year, not having another corner but on the opposite side of a Bradbury, who Bradbury's pretty good, and not having a guy of equal skill on the other side really hurt them because they would just target the other side all day. So having Bashaud Breeland, it's a pretty good player, 26 years old. Last year, had 50 tackles, an interception, 19 pass deflections, and a touchdown. Started 14 games in 15 that he possibly played. Not missed many games in his entire career, but overall, this year in terms of coverage, probably his best year that he's had. I'd actually like to look up his Pro Football Focus score. So as I do that, Dylan, let me know your thoughts on Bashaud Breeland.
Okay. I think he's probably in the top 5 for cornerbacks in free agency this year. He put up a good stat line last season. The injuries, obviously, for that whole team were just devastating. So all things considered, I'm not going to really take that on him. He's going to Carolina. I think that's a great fit for him. I think it's a great fit for them, considering they always need a lot of help going. On the defensive side, their safety, their corner help. It's not necessarily the greatest out of anywhere else in the NFL. I think he's one of those guys that's going to be very underrated. I think he'll be getting some pretty good plays and be matched up with probably the number 2 guy. wherever whatever team he's playing against. So I like the call. I like that they're going to get him. Washington, I think, is going to miss him. But then again, I've already talked about the incompetence of Washington. So good pick, or good signing for Carolina. We don't know the money, but I want to see that shortly.
Yeah, overall, he was pretty decent last year. He was ranked overall 47th on Pro Football Focus, has a 79 overall grade. According to them, struggles a little bit in run support, but pretty good in coverage, which is, of course, what actually matters as a corner.
Mm-hmm.
I know run support matters, but when you can cover, it helps. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's not one of the best corners in the league, but he's definitely a guy that can help them and is definitely an improvement at that position. So Rashad Breeland going to the Carolina Panthers. Let's open it up. Q&A.
We've got so many questions.
And if we missed your comment and it was earlier, resend.
Hold on. I have to replay this. I don't even think I can't even go back to the first part of the chat. That's the problem. I can only go to 245. So, guys, if I missed it, re-put it back in the chat.
By the way, if anyone out there that is a YouTube person, I appreciate your new feature. The replay chat feature is very cool. I appreciate it. Even though you're probably not watching this. But thank you.
Although I can't go back onto it right now. I have to wait until after the video is done. So I can only go back to 245 right now. So, guys, spam back your comments. We'll go through them again.
Oh, shit. Report.
Wow. New report.
Packers intend to sign. Can you guess?
You just saw it.
Packers intend to sign tight end Jimmy Graham to a 3-year deal.
I'm going to make this joke that I'm going to copyright this as Mitch Mulaney.
Yes.
Packers.
This is my joke.
We need somebody on defense. Let's go sign a tight end.
Or a receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Packers, man. They're like, oh, we need corners. We need safeties. We need linebackers. We need defensive ends, defensive tackles, an entire defense. Let's sign a tight end. Because that's what we do every year, and it always fails. But my thoughts on this. 3-year deal, Jimmy Graham. He's probably getting overpaid to shit because he probably is, because he's probably overrated at this point in his career. And the Packers always overpay tight ends. Just a fact.
That's true. I like the signing.
I like the signing. It helps. It's a good move. It's definitely going to upgrade their offense. No doubts.
No doubt.
But my problem with the Packers every year is you need defense and you don't address it.
They even know this is one of those teams do they know what defense is? Bro,
they've needed a corner since they lost Charles Woodson and they haven't got one.
And then they traded Demarius Randall.
Who isn't great. But
decent. He's a body.
He's a body.
Somebody. I don't know,
bro. I don't know. We'll see what the contract is, but Jimmy Graham, good player. Where would you rank him in terms of tight end? 7th?
Okay, so let me think it. 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah.
It was also because last season, there was.
And I don't think he really fit the Seahawks, but have the Packers really. But this is the same thing. The Packers' offense is very similar to the Seahawks' offense.
Mm-hmm. Also Aaron Rodgers is a different quarterback than Russell Wilson, so maybe that'll help him. Maybe.
No, I think he, especially in the red zone, for sure.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a help. Don't get us wrong on this. He's gonna be a help. He's gonna be a solid addition to the offense.
We just question why they don't.
We question why they put their money into the tight end or wide receiver or running back or any offensive position when you have Aaron Rodgers who can carry any offense. When you need defense.
Look, he got Jared Cook to his biggest moment. And we know what Jared Cook is, okay?
Jared Cook was pretty good last year. Don't hate.
He's not top-tier talent, come on.
Well, he did lead the Raiders in receptions.
That's not saying much. That's not saying much. Only Crabtree would have probably had anything to do with it. It's kind of baffling. Okay, let's get to some comments. So people were talking about Matt Ryan. I don't know why they brought him up, but they said Fred said he's a borderline top 10 NFL QB. Where do you rank him? Matt Ryan.
Yeah, he's somewhere in there. I wouldn't say he's top 10, but I'd say he's 10 to 15.
Okay. Bill
Why?
Skittle says Kirk is underrated for sure.
I think he's 10 to. I'd say 10 to 12. I'll be nicer.
Okay. Kevin Durkant, who has been very vocal, says Kirk has a lot of potential. Sad he had to play for those trash Redskins. I agree with you. Ghost Skittle says they traded him like shit, which is true. He also says, I know, right? Redskins need a new front or office. They have the talent, just not a good organization. Marvin says he loves the Case Keenum deal. That is a win for the Broncos, he says. So he's
interesting. I'm glad you're happy.
Fred says,
I don't know yet. I'm not sold yet.
Not sold yet. Yeah, not sold. Fred.
You'll definitely have the best quarterback you've had in 3 years.
Oh my God, if that's not true, get ready. Fred says Keenum's season was good, a little bit overrated. Kyle Nichols says Bears need linemen.
What do you mean? Bears don't need offensive line.
I don't.
They have a good offensive line.
Defensive lineman, I think.
I don't know. They have a good defense.
My
opinion.
We got another deal. Wait, no, is this true? I don't know if that's not true. Never mind. Freaking
what?
Adam Schefter said good source, and it said Taylor Gabriel is expected to shine with the Chicago Bears on a 4-year deal. And he said Taylor Gabriel is my source. So do I agree with that or no?
Andrew Hawkins said that. Andrew Hawkins, a former receiver.
So
played
yes?
with Taylor Gabriel. Probably.
I mean, he works in Sports Center, so I mean,
what do we think? Taylor Gabriel?
Taylor Gabriel? I mean, if he signs with the Bears, that's a great signing.
Okay. Taylor Gabriel. I thought he was going to go to San Fran just because Kyle Shanahan. But Taylor Gabriel is a guy that kind of underachieved last year in the Sarkisian offense because I think everybody did. But overall, going to Chicago, like I said, another playmaker, a guy that can stretch the field, speed, diddly. They can do some of the things that he can do, some of the Tyreek Hill things. Like I'm always comparing the Kansas City offense, but like this good signing. I'm a fan of Taylor Gabriel, pretty underrated route runner down the field. And as long as Nagy can sort of take some of the things that Shanahan did with him, I think they'll be successful with it.
I think it's a great signing. I mean, Taylor Gabriel, we saw 2 seasons ago, was a great receiver for them as Kyle Shanahan. So we thought we was going to go to the 49ers. If he goes to the Bears, I mean, they're really wanting to get that receiver core going. So Matt Nagy, who was very creative in the way he used his receivers, I think it's down there in Kansas City. I think it's going to be great. I think it'll be a great signing for them. It's an underrated one. We don't know if it's true, but I'm going to guess it's pretty true, considering it comes from Taylor Gabriel, apparently. I cannot disagree with this more. Kevin Durkant says Panthers should make some moves. They could trade up for Barkley. They could be unstoppable on offense. Well, they just picked a running back in the top 10 last season, so like I don't know how that works. I don't think that's even possible. Yankee Kings in the chat. He says, fuck the Giants. They're gonna be awful. They haven't been making any free agent moves, which is kind of surprising. You would think they would be. Durkant says Matthew Stafford is a borderline top 5 QB. He's really good. Makes plays for a shitty team.
Agreed.
That is true. I'm going to call this guy Pi9641 because I can't pronounce the first name. He says Kennard is okay. He has a Giants logo on him, so he knows.
Okay.
He's an okay linebacker, but he's bad. He's bad
Yep.
coverage. Bad in coverage.
Yeah, that's what I sort of said. I don't know if he said that before or after we talked about him.
Yeah,
but like I think he's sort of a guy that's been a little bit misplaced as well in terms of his scheme. I think he's a guy that's a little bit bigger and shouldn't be put in those sort of situations as much. I think he'll do better in Detroit in that multiple scheme that Patricia plays. I think he's a guy that can play 4-3 and 3-4, which is why I like the signing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it too. Andrew says, I'm a Lions fan, and my question is, do you see us getting Butler or Sheed?
I think Butler is pretty likely.
I think Butler would be great, obviously.
And Who was the other guy? Was it Lane or Sheed that visited the Lions or visiting them?
I think Sheed was visiting them.
Okay, it was one of the Seahawks guys. But yeah, I think it looks like Butler is between the Raiders and the Lions, but I could be wrong.
I think personally, I would like him to go to the Lions a little bit more than I would like him to go to the Raiders.
Same.
Me personally, and plus Patricia loves the guy. So
did you see that comment? Bro, I love you or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, man, I love you, man. Let's see, going for it. Oops. Okay, Go Skittle says Stafford wins games that they shouldn't win a whole lot of.
I agree.
Yeah, he makes them better. Andrew says Teddy signs with the Jets. Well, we haven't I don't think that's been confirmed, but we talked about that earlier. It might.
Did we talk about it? Man, I'm exhausted.
I am too. You brought it up, but we didn't confirm. It hasn't been confirmed. That's why we were.
My voice hurts.
My ears are hurting. That's what's hurting most of these headphones. Let's see.
If anybody would like to help us individually edit these videos,
that'd be great.
I would help. I would give you like $5.
Give him that $5. Go Skittle says, "Bro, I'm black and I can swim."
Debatable.
Well, he's half black, half white, so that's
okay. Doesn't count.
Light skins don't count in that situation. Don't take it the wrong way, people. Andrew says Vikings will be trashed with Cousins. What? What are you saying, bro?
Okay, let's talk about that. Where are the Vikings in your power rankings?
Where are the Vikings? What do we got them as?
Yeah.
Well, I think they'll win their division, for sure. That's tough because there's so many good teams in the NFC.
I think they're
right
in the
now.
top 3.
I think you have to. I think you have Philadelphia at 1, and then either the Saints or the Vikings at number 2 or 3 in the NFC. I
think they're number 2.
Number 2?
Yeah.
I think you can go either or, but to say they're going to be trashed with them, I don't even know how.
How are they going to be worse? Like,
how are they going to be worse than what Case?
Unless they lose some players on defense,
but that can't happen until next season. So, like, bruh.
Bro, I'm gonna be a big Bears fan this year.
I know you are. You're gonna be like Mitchell Trubisky. You're gonna stay away from the Josh Allen and then be like Mitchell Trubisky, the guy, the legend.
And then Josh Allen's gonna beat the Cowboys. And then
that's almost as big as my laugh when Kev said the Seahawks had a chance in the playoffs. That's almost the bigger laugh. No one can beat that laugh though. That was amazing. Let's see. A lot of deleted comments. I don't know. Oh, kill them boys, brah. Don't delete all these comments from our.
Yeah, what the frick? I give him a little teensy bit of power, and he turns into Eric Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff. Andrew, since he's a Lions fan, says, "What if we added DeMarco Murray?" Well, I believe they're interested in him, and considering how many times I'll bring up the fact they still don't have a 100-yard rusher in a game in 4 seasons. They could use any help they'll get. So they might be looking in the draft to get somebody, though. You never know.
I definitely think they'll sign a combination of a veteran and a rookie.
So my best guess is DeMarco Murray and Geis, if I'm going to put anybody up there. I would like Ronald to be there. But, let's see. Now that song's in my head.
Who is it that keeps deleting shit? Kill 'em boys?
Kill 'em boys.
The fucking guy.
Rick Badboy says, "Good riddance, Richardson. You were a bust to me." Wow. A bust. He is a Seattle fan, so.
Where did Richardson go?
What do you mean where Richardson go?
Did he go somewhere? Did he sign?
Paul Richardson.
Everybody wants to know what the Patriots are doing.
Paul Richardson.
Bro, you do realize the free agency doesn't actually start till tomorrow.
We just talked about him.
The Patriots?
No. Oh, you're talking about the Patriots signing. I was like, where you said Richardson. Like, where'd he go?
No. People want to know what the Patriots are doing. My answer is, first off, free agency doesn't even start till tomorrow. Second, Danny Amendola wasn't going to get paid that much money as the fourth receiver on the team. Third, Malcolm Butler wasn't coming back. Fourth, they got Danny Shelton, so they made one move at least. And
The biggest.
I don't know why. I don't know if you guys. I don't mean to like be. What happened?
We got another thing. Packers are releasing wide receiver Jordy Nelson.
Wow.
That's surprising. I did not expect that to happen. So wait, they just signed a tight end, but then lost their receiver.
Future Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah, sign him. Sign him right now. I will take Jordy Nelson. Well,
Okay, wait. Jordy Nelson interrupted my Patriot rant. Last thing. I don't know if you guys have just became Patriot fans, but the Patriots, outside of like 2 or 3 years, don't usually sign a lot of free agents. They sign a lot of smaller, mid-tier free agents, and they kind of add to the team.
Then they become stars.
Yeah, they don't really like. I hope they re-sign Danny just because I love him. Woodhead.
You wish they would have, yeah.
I hope they re-sign Woodhead. He just got cut.
Oh, Danny Wood. I was like Danny
Woodhead.
Woodhead.
But like Danny's too much money. I understand it. Like I understand their moves. I just want them to improve their defense. I could give 2 shits. I hope Nate Solder comes back. Outside of that, I could give 2 craps about their offense. I just want edge rushers, defensive players in general, and corners. That's all I want.
You shouldn't even consider looking at their offense right now. They need to focus on that defense like heavily.
I am a tad bit concerned about the Nate Solder situation.
Other than yes.
But considering how I saw Cam Fleming and Leadrian Waddle play last year, and they also drafted Garcia last year, I feel like if they got one of those guys back, they could do a pretty good job because they are getting Marcus Cannon. So it depends on how they value him. But like, if he gets super like ridiculously overpaid, he's probably going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way it is.
Probably. There you go.
That's what you got to deal with, bro.
You got to deal with fans. Owen, who is the Seattle fan, he says, where do you think Sue will go? Ndamukong Suh. It looks like he's going to get released from the Dolphins. What's the market for him?
Jeez.
Who wants that big ass? Are you
talking in terms of I've heard that he's met with the Seahawks. I can look at my trusty page of notes if I can find it.
Well, you know, if you're going for Sue and you're the Seattle Seahawks, you're going from a guy that rolled people's legs to a guy that kicks people in the nuts. So congratulations to the Seahawks that they want that.
Let me look for teams that need this type of player.
And before anybody says it was not an intentional kick, I can go back to the fact that he did kick somebody in the.
All right. Eagles, no. Patriots, doubtful. Cowboys, no. 49ers, Browns, Packers, possibly. Raiders, possibly. Vikings, no. Seahawks, as we suggested. Steelers, no. Bears, no. Broncos, very possibly. Giants, don't think so. Bills, no. They just signed, what's his name? Redskins, possibly. Saints, possibly.
That's a dark horse right there.
Jets, maybe.
Considering they didn't get Kurt, maybe.
They have the money too, so maybe. Back with the Lions. I would welcome it.
That would be interesting, honestly. I wouldn't be mad about that.
Panthers, no. Rams, that would be very awesome, but no.
It ain't gonna happen.
Colts, maybe. Falcons, I don't think so, but he would be a good fit, I think. But I don't know if they would pay him. Ravens, I don't think so. Texans, no. Cardinals, probably not. Chiefs, maybe. Titans, no. Jags, definitely not. Unless he goes there for cheap. Bengals, maybe. Chargers, I hope. Bucks. Bucks definitely could happen. Chargers could happen as well, I think, but Chargers are very
So we
quiet.
got about 8 teams. 8 teams
There
probably
you
have
go.
a chance.
I just went through the whole NFL.
I don't know what order that was in.
I just searched up NFL teams.
And okay, I wonder who got. I thought you were gonna go by division. Okay. Sean B asked, "What's up with Tremaine Johnson?" I have not heard a lot of talk about.
Wait till tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
I bet you tomorrow, like in the morning, it's gonna be like, boom! Tremaine Johnson signed $60 million deal with the Raiders.
Well, if they don't get Malcolm Butler,
I think also like we're gonna see those pieces fall, like together. Like I think Butler's gonna sign somewhere, and then Tremaine is gonna sign somewhere, or reversed.
Fair enough. That sounds about right.
I actually am hoping that the Patriots get him, but I think he's gonna be too much.
He'll be too much. That would be interesting.
And I don't think they'd be willing to pay him and Gilmore. So.
No, I don't think.
But the interesting part is no Sue, no Wilkerson, no Richardson, no pass rushers.
Nope.
So Patriots fans, what the heck are you talking about? The Patriots need defense. None of these guys have been signed yet.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why y'all would want any offensive players at this point. Rick Bad Boy says Packers should sign Adrian Peterson at running back. Well, he's probably cheap, and they don't have any running back help. So
as a backup, sure.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to be the starter.
Plus, he's like way too one-dimensional at this point. Like it's a run. Like every time he's in the game. Like,
yeah. No, they're just going to build it up for him. Like, there's nothing. We saw it with the Saints.
Red zone back, I would bring him in.
Yeah, that one great game with the Cardinals, and then it was like, yeah. Let's see here. Jin Pambo says, "Is Kyle Fuller pretty good?"
Yes.
I think he's very good. Liam says Alex Smith will suck next year. Well, I know Mitch does not like Alex Smith, so
I don't hate him. I think he's a cool guy. I just don't like him as a football player that much.
Well, yeah, I don't think most of us think of these guys as bad people.
Yeah.
Do I know anybody? I don't know. I'll probably think of somebody I don't like in a minute. Okay, so apparently the Gabriel thing is real, according to our fans. Any AJ McCarron news? Brando asked. Brando the man.
I've heard nothing. I think the Teddy Bridgewater stuff's gonna fall first.
So that'd probably be another thing that we'll hear about tomorrow, if anything. We haven't heard much of that. Is Tyler Eifert a free agent? I want to ask. I don't think he is. Is he? Is he?
Who?
Tyler Eifert.
Yes, he is.
Wow, I haven't heard shit about him. Probably because of his massive concussion issues. If there's
look out for Jacksonville there.
Jacksonville?
Yeah. I'm just guessing.
Okay. Sean B says Bears are doing work, but do need a left guard and a corner. That is what he's saying. Well, their whole goal was to get those receivers, and they basically got all of them today. So they'll focus on that stuff probably in the draft. And that's a good thing, too. They didn't have to go draft a receiver. We were talking about maybe if they were going to go into in the first round. Now they don't even have to do that, honestly. So Charles Alex said, "Why are the Patriots doing anything? Is the dynasty over?"
God. If only went to the Super Bowl 5 of the last 10 years.
Things have got to end at some point. Chicago fucking knows that. The Bulls. Come on, boys. Quit hiding and deleting messages, please. Jin says the dynasty will never die. Bro, come on.
Lamar.
It ain't gonna happen.
My mom is very upset about Amendola. That was her favorite player.
Really? Oh,
yes.
That sucks. That's sad. Let's see. Andrew says, do you see the Lions getting Dontari Poe?
No.
I don't think so either. You focus on the Butler. Get your Butler. And then Focus
I don't
on
think so. I mean, there's a possibility, but I doubt it.
somebody went back to the black swimming thing. Did you guys forget the Caribbean is full of black people and we learned to swim around the same time we learned to walk? Bro, I don't want to be bad on this. But
no, actually, I would like to correct Colin Corey Sports Talk. The number one receiver on the Packers is Devontae Adams.
Who did he say was the best receiver? Cobb?
Nelson.
Not the last season.
Who y'all think Cowboys going to sign, or do y'all think they'll let Dez walk?
They're not going to let Dez walk right now. They have too much confidence in him. They'll be like, one more season, and then we'll figure it out. I'm going to make this message to Dez Bryant. Either put up or shut up. Because honestly, like I want the guy to succeed as a Cowboy, but he's talking a whole lot of game for something he hasn't been providing the last 2 seasons. So I want to see it. And I want to sign Tremaine Johnson.
Jets bring back Josh McCown. Good move.
Not surprising. Good move. I like the guy. He's probably one of the nicest guys in the entire league. And he
played well last year.
Yeah. And his career's winding down, so why not, honestly? Let's see. It's a black American stereotype. Bro, so you brought this all shit up. Now we're going to make that a shirt. Ryan Shaw says, will Kenny Britt play a role at all for the Packers or for the Patriots?
What?
I'm like, are you gonna answer? Will Kenny Britt play a role for the Patriots?
I hope so. He's got to fight for
so?
a spot. They re-signed him, and apparently they think, or according to reports, they think he's going to play a pretty good role next year. So hopefully,
hopefully, okay.
I don't know who knows with the Patriots, man. But looking at it realistically, you have Edelman, Cooks, and Hogan. Those 3 guys are going to play the most. Malcolm Mitchell might squeeze out Hogan at times because he has the potential to do so, depending on his camp and stuff. He didn't play all of last year.
I like Malcolm Mitchell.
But Kenny Britt and Dorsett are kind of interesting. I'd pay attention. One of them will probably not make the team, though.
No. It's a 1-year deal for Josh McCown. So
$10 million.
Okay. How much?
$10 million.
$10 million. Wow. Okay.
That must mean that he's borderline starter material. So they probably brought him. If they're going to sign Teddy B, that probably means in case Teddy B has some injury issues or whatever, we're going to have him as a solid backup.
Fair enough. I like him. He's nice. Wrist froze says Danny Amendola is going to be a beast on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, you know what's funny about that?
Mm-hmm.
Dolphins fans. Is Danny Amendola plays his best in the playoffs.
That's true.
The Dolphins aren't going to make it.
Can they make it? Hey, I don't know, bro. I don't know. The big clapper. The clapper. Don't get me on Jason Garrett. Oh, shit.
Clapper.
Fucking hate that dude. Where do we see Don Terry Poe going, if not for the Lions? I don't know. Honestly, I have no clue.
Do I have to go through the NFL teams thing again?
Nah, don't.
Washington? Green Bay?
Yeah.
Raiders? I don't know. Falcons? I don't know. I think Dylan froze. God damn it, Dylan. Get back in here. Anyways, I don't know what else to really talk about, guys. We've been in here for a friggin' while. Kevin McCann. What?
Sorry about that. My computer died. So,
Dylan, you look like a whole new person, bro.
I know, right? Now I can move around. Now I can get really close to the camera. Can make a whole bunch of movements. You know, get you the new view. Yeah.
Please don't do that.
I gotta give him the new view, man. Why not? Oh, and now I look like I can move around more. I can't view the chat anymore because it's on my phone now. So.
All right, I think we should leave anyways. We've been on here for like 2 hours plus.
And we still got to get the separate videos out. Yeah. Again,
anybody want to help with that?
Please. give me $5. 5 little dollars.
All right. Thank you guys for sticking around here. NFL Free Agency Live Analysis, March 13th, 2018. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and also share with your friends. Let them know that the Bottom Line View is a place for NFL coverage. Free agency all offseason long. Check us out, guys. Thanks once again. Mitch, Dylan, expect those individual videos out anytime today, tomorrow. We'll have them out for you guys in case you missed anything. Peace out.
Peace.